This is Failing Justice.
What is up, everybody? This is Justin with Failing Justice, the podcast. Welcome to the show today. Man, it's been a good day. I think we have a good show ready for you guys. I've had a good day. I'll talk a little bit about that here in just a little bit. But as always, thank you so much for joining in and listening to the show. Remember, we are on all social media platforms. We are on Rumble. We are on YouTube, now doing all video podcasts. You can check us out, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. But on all podcast platforms, also Google, Spotify, wherever you download your podcast, that's where we're at. So let's jump into it, man. I tell you what, it has just been a couple of weeks of disasters, right? Like natural disasters. Man, California got hit just a couple days ago. New rainfall records were set there in LA, which was crazy. I saw a picture of the Dodger Stadium. So we were in LA back in January, and we were actually at Dodger Stadium, and took my boys over there. And I just saw a picture of it this week, man. It was like, dang, it looked pretty crazy out there in the parking lot. Said that the LA, which is had its rainiest summer day for the weather station downtown at 2.82 inches. San Diego did the same thing, totaling 1.82 inches of rain, which is 10 times the average total amount. Hurricane Hillary hit land in Mexico, and it kind of affected California quite a bit. They've had a bunch of mud, and people getting just the images and stuff are crazy. And so, man, just pray for those people over there. Last week it was Maui, and now it's California, man, and it's like, we really need to. I don't know what's going on with all this stuff, but pray for those guys. So I want to touch back up on something that we hit on last week, the whole deal out of Marion County, right? So if you remember, the Marion County Record had gotten raided by the police officers for a lot of scandal behind it as to why. We don't know why exactly. The Record was doing some story on somebody who was kind of a big person, dignitary in town, and also they were doing an investigation on the police chief from sexual misconduct from his prior agency. And so unsure exactly of why it was raided, but I know it probably has something to do with that. But I want to play a video for you guys, and it's hard to laugh at, actually, because the lady had passed away. I remember telling you that they raided the home, and then the next day, the 98-year-old mother of the newspaper publisher had passed away. But new video just got released yesterday, actually, from inside the home when the police came in and did the raid, and the Joan Meyer, the 98-year-old mother, was in there, and this is video from when she was inside. I just wanted to play this for you guys to show you kind of what the police put her through unnecessarily. She was clearly upset. I didn't have this for you guys last week, but I want to play it for you real quick.
You touch any of that stuff. This is my house.
I know. You're wasting your breath. Ma'am, let's get out of
You
Newly released security video. This is posted by that local Kansas newspaper, Marion County Record. And what you're looking at is police raiding the home of that paper's 98-year-old co-owner and the mother of the editor of the paper, Joanne Meyer. You'll remember she collapsed and died the day after the raid.
Get out of my house. Get out. Stand outside. You can stand outside that door and still see it. I don't want you in my house.
What a feisty lady. She was not playing with those police officers. it reminds me kind of my grandma. She is definitely feisty. If somebody come and raided my grandma's house, that's exactly what she would be doing. Except for she'd probably put hands on them. I guarantee everybody knows my grandma Frances. She is not playing. But man, that was the day before she lost her life, and she was obviously upset. One more thing to give you an update on this. So the affidavits authorizing the searches and seizures of the papers in publisher's house were signed by Magistrate Judge Laura Villar, and while her signature was dated August 11th, the court did not receive the affidavits until Monday, August 14th, 3 days after the search was conducted. The Marion County attorney withdrew the search warrant on August 16th, citing insufficient evidence to support the alleged crimes and seizures. The county attorney had already withdrawn it, and it's no longer existed. Man, so they did all of that, and then they did nothing with it. Like, they didn't do anything. The mom died, and for no reason. For no reason at all. I just wanted to catch you guys up on that part of that story. Still makes me mad when I think about it. Somebody unnecessarily lost their life because they were upset. Their last day on earth was somebody raiding their house. And so that's the update on that. Listen, I want to tell you guys about my day. I had a pretty good day. So I went over to the Center for American and International Law over in Plano, Texas. And I attended a workshop there today, and it was super cool. There were people there from the Illinois Innocent Project. There were 2 exonerees there. One of the exonerees were, his name is Richard Miles. Richard Miles, you've probably heard the Miles Act. Richard Miles now has a organization, Miles of Freedom, that he has started, where he helps people transition from prison back to street life. And he told his story today, and oh my goodness, it was moving. It was really moving. And so he was convicted, wrongfully arrested and convicted right here in Dallas, Texas, for a murder that he didn't commit back in 1994. Lost many years of his life because there was a terrible investigation. Now, I don't want to go too much into Miles' story because I connected with Miles today, and he agreed to come on the podcast. So we're going to try to get him scheduled sometime within the next couple of weeks to get Miles on here to tell his story. He's right here in Dallas, and so I'm pretty excited, looking forward to that. That'll be a good show for you guys. But one of the other persons that was there, one of the exonerees, was Kristine Bunch. Okay, so Kristine, she was wrongfully convicted in Illinois from an incident in 1995. And man, bless her heart, the Illinois Innocence Project brought her. She's part of their speaking bureau, so she goes around and travels with them. And they brought her, and she told her story today. And man, the room was quiet. You know, that room was full of law enforcement and people from the public defender's office and things like that. And she told her story. Man, so she woke up one day in 1995. She said the room was, and I'm just going to tell this super quickly. The room was real hazy. She woke up, she didn't know what was going on, and she knew immediately, pretty quickly, that it was smoke. So her concern was her 3-year-old son that was in the bedroom. And so she got up, she got her bearings, and she went over there, and her son's room was, she couldn't get in the door. It was pretty much up in flames. And, she tried everything that she could try. She was, she told the story that they even had to take her to the hospital after the fact because she, her hair was burned, her hands were burned. She went outside. Because she couldn't get in from the inside, she went around to the outside. She took her son's tricycle and she threw it through the window, trying to get in that way. The neighbors had to come over and they pulled her out, but her hair was burned, her eyebrows were burned, her feet were burned. I mean, she was doing everything she could try to do to get in that room, and just the flames would not let her in. And so her 3-year-old son passed away, and she went to the hospital. And while at the hospital, she was met by detectives, wanting to get her statement. Her dad kind of intervened and said, "Look, we're going to give a statement as soon as everything chills out. She just lost her son." And so next thing, she ends up, I think like the next day, she goes down to the police department, and she makes contact with the detectives there, and they start immediately accusing her of setting the fire and killing her son. The only evidence they had was some lousy old ATF agent came in and took some samples from the floor, but claimed that they were accelerants. Well, one of the locations wasn't even in her son's room. It was in another location. May have been in the room, but across the room, I can't remember. But anyway, they took some samples and they said it was a kerosene. And but they got an affidavit in that exact location from the previous homeowners that they had a kerosene heater there. The other thing that the ATF agent claimed was that the other location of the accelerant was, gasoline. And so they went to, he testified in trial, so that's what it was. They convict. Long story short, I mean, she's young. She's, 21 years old. They convict her. She goes to prison. And she lost 17 years of her life. Come back later that the ATF agent had changed his report and had lied. There was not a gasoline accelerant. The only accelerant was from the old wood from the kerosene heater. That was nothing fresh. And so, thanks be to God, she was able to get out. But she lost 17 years of her life, and she lost her son. And so she was there. She told her story, man. She was crying. I think she had the whole room crying, and it was just, oh man, it was just so, you hear about these things all the time. You hear about these things happening, and but you never, when you meet people, when you meet real life people who have been through that, gone through that, and it's different. There was a room full of law enforcement officers. A lot of them, some of them were detectives, some of them were crime scene, some of them were, administrators like myself. And, it changes the way you look at things when you hear that in person. And it's like one of the things that I said in there was, those are real people. That could be anybody. And you just, when you hear about this stuff from afar, you're like, oh man, that's crazy. I can't believe that. They better get compensated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And having the Illinois Innocence Project in there, giving the stats, one of the guys that taught was an ex-cop. He was 27-year-old cop veteran out of Illinois, and he was one of the guys that was teaching. He now travels with the Innocent Projects. And one of the stats that they gave was, out of 300,000 convictions, 9,000 of those are innocent. And just hearing that, Mr. Miles and Miss Bunch losing, 17 years of their life, it's just unreal. And as law enforcement, you've got to do better. I when I was a detective, one of the mistakes that you can easily make is somebody saying, "Hey, that's who it is. That's your guy," and you just get that tunnel vision, and you just you're kind of blinded to everything else around you. And you could have outside pressures, from your administration or from the media or whatever. And it's just so sad that these things happen to so many people. And while we're sitting out here enjoying our freedoms, and we've sit out here, we've put somebody in prison, and we think we got the right guy. It is absolutely crucial that as law enforcement officers, when they're doing their investigations, you have to slow down. You really have to understand that you have so much power in your hands to change the outcome of somebody's destiny. And man, it was just so moving to hear those stories today and be around those kinds of people. And these things, one of the things is and I'll tell you right now, cops don't like to admit it. Cops don't like to admit that they have it's implicit biases. Everybody, I don't care who you are listening to this podcast right now, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, it doesn't matter. Everybody has some sort of bias, some sort of implicit bias, whatever that is. And it all goes to, the culture that you were raised in. There's a lot of things that go into that. And so as law enforcement officers, and then another thing, a lot of people don't want to hear this either. And then we talked about this today. One of the crucial conversations that we have to have is racism does exist in law enforcement. Now, this is kind of a touchy subject with some people, especially cops. They say, oh, that's a bunch of, that's just what people use. In my career, I've seen it and I've heard it. Do I think the majority of cops are racist? No, I don't. But racism does play a part when it comes to some of these numbers. And that we even talked about that today. They said, no, racism isn't the sole reason for these numbers, but it does play some part. And, man, it's just like, you've got to do better. You have to, when you're doing an investigation, when law enforcement's doing an investigation on somebody, you have to forget all the things that you believe in, all the things that you think about anybody, and you have to find the truth, because these are real people out here that are sitting in prison for decades because of the job that law enforcement does. And that's why their job is so crucial. One of the things that I thought was cool that they talked about, that really and truly it kind of motivates me to want to go to legislators here in Texas and implement, because I think it's only implemented right now in Illinois, according to the Innocent Project. There is, starting this year in 2023, all police recruits in the state of Illinois, they have to take a wrongful conviction awareness and avoidance course as part of their training. And I think that is, I think that's fire. Like that should be a must, because when you're sitting in the police academy, I know when I was 20 years old, sitting in that police academy, nobody told me, hey, be careful what you're doing, because you could put somebody in prison that doesn't need to be in prison. Nobody told me that. Only thing I told was go get them, go get the bad guy. People want to kill you. Marijuana's bad. Arrest your bad guy at all costs. Nobody said, hey, slow down, take your time, really, really think about what you're doing. Look at all the totality of the circumstances. Look at all the evidence. Don't just hone in on one person. Find the truth. Nobody told me that. And in today's world, today's culture, you have a new generation coming into policing, and a new generation does play a part into how policing is going to move forward. I think it's super, super important, and I think it should be required in all states that cadets and recruits have to have the conviction awareness and avoidance course. That's not, again, that's only an Illinois thing from what I understand, but I fully believe that that's something that we should implement everywhere. And again, it kind of motivates me to want to take that and implement that here in Texas. And I tell you what, seeing that Mark Beach was his name. He was a cop in Illinois, and he's now with the Innocent Project. Seeing Mark Beach have such a have the same perspective that I have, because I tell you right now, several years ago, especially, from a rookie all the way up till I'd say 4 or 5 years ago, it never crossed my mind about the innocent being in prison. You'd hear about it, but you see it so far off. You're like, that's not anything that would ever happen here. That's not anything that would ever happen to me. And just so quickly like that, it can easily happen. And seeing him and his perspective and teaching a bunch of other cops, because it's not popular. I promise you that it's not popular among the conversation with law enforcement. Like, hey, slow down, really think what you're doing. You could really screw something up, put somebody in prison. That's not a popular conversation to have. And so seeing Mark up there and him teaching a room full of cops was just really kind of motivating. And I tell you what, I had conversations with him, and I have a desire to go out and do stuff like that. I would love to take the things that I know about corruption and, about innocent people being convicted, innocent people being, put in prison or indicted, because I've seen it. I have seen it all my career. People, cops that they just, they're in the profession, but do they really care? And you have to have compassion for the people that you're dealing with, for victims and for suspects. And so it's just really motivating day over there in Plano. Being able to meet the exonerees, talk to the guys that were there, and intermingle with law enforcement who actually care. There were so many people there, and you could tell like they had compassion. They were there for a reason, and I think that their eyes were really opened after today. So it was a great day over there. I plan to be in touch with some of the Innocent Projects of the Innocent Project in Texas, and also the main headquarters in New York, and look forward to partnering up with them and doing some work. All right, so listen, this is sickening, okay? I ran into this week. This happened a couple of weeks ago, but I saw the video just yesterday, and I wanted to put it in the show because, this kind of just goes hand in hand with literally what I was just talking about. Having compassion for people. I want to play this video real quick, and then we're gonna have a conversation. So check it out.
The Dallas Community Police Oversight Board has launched an investigation into several officers. They were caught on body cam video laughing at a disabled Army veteran who accidentally urinated on himself.
You guys made a guy pee himself? Yeah.
Darnell Lane says he was refused access to the bathrooms at Sirius Pizza in Deep Ellum. Lane was injured in combat in his lower extremities and says he tried to get help from a couple off-duty uniformed officers by showing them his medical paperwork. He says they brushed him off. He presented his case to the board after Internal Affairs found no wrongdoing.
And it's been a constant fight having to explain myself about my disability just to get assistance from public servants and private businesses while I'm out and about. This battle leaves me in constant depression and suicidal at times because of the shame of asking strangers for help.
Now, Dallas police officials tell us they will also conduct an administrative investigation. We've also reached out to Sirius Pizza and are waiting to hear back.
All right. So that's right here again in Dallas, Texas. Wow. So under Alley's law in Texas, people with certain medical conditions can be allowed to access restrooms that aren't public if they show that they have a medical disability. So the officers still wouldn't let him use the restroom, and that he left. But this was not before calling 911 and before him urinating on himself. This came after the fact because they wouldn't let him use the restroom. And then there you see the video. It's kind of hard to, if you're just listening to audio, that audio is it's real loud in that restaurant. And so it's really kind of hard to hear, but those officers are just, I mean, there was a female cop there and she was just, oh yeah, made somebody piss themselves. This is a veteran, guys, of our U.S. Armed Forces who tried to go use the restroom. Dallas police wouldn't let them. They were off-duty cops working in that pizza joint. And then he has to urinate on himself. It says, per his complaint, he tried to use the restroom. It was around 2 a.m. at the Serious Pizza in Deep Ellum, but he was prohibited by the officers. And that's just sickening behavior to sit there and watch those cops make fun of that guy. And this is my whole point. This is my whole point in this podcast and everything that I do. You have to have compassion. You have to care about people. Stop self-serving. If you're in it for the pay, if you're in it for the rolled up sleeves, to sit there and try to look like a badass and just treat people like absolute dirt, you need to get out. You need to get out of the profession, because we already have an erosion of distrust from the public to law enforcement right now. And it's bad. It's real bad. And the reason I point stuff like this out is because there clearly needs to be a change and bring an awareness to this. And if cops listen to this, because I know a lot of cops listen to this. I know my haters listen to this. I got word this week of some haterade being sipped over in Palestine, but not worth my time. I got other stuff I'm doing. But listen, I know cops listen to this. And if you're listening to this, guys, this isn't hate the cops. This is, look at these things that are taking place right here in our own backyards, and we have to do better. So this went before the Dallas Police Community, the Community Police Oversight Board, which is super cool that they have that here in Dallas. And August 8th actually is when he went and played that video before the Oversight Board. And for this stuff to be put out in public, it's embarrassing, it's sickening, and it tarnishes our badge. It makes the good people in law enforcement look terrible. So when that guy goes and makes contact with another police officer, what do you think he's going to think? Oh, the other cops I dealt with made me piss myself. They were super mean to me. They were treating me like crap. And, then turned around and made fun of me. So it's like, what is he supposed to think next time he makes contact with police officers out here in the street? And police officers wonder why, why is he going to run? Why is he going to fight? Well, hell, I'd run and fight too, if we're being honest. We have got to do better. That was just sickening. Which leads me into my next topic. Here's the deal, guys. Some people may not like this. Some people may like it. I don't know. I think it's actually a great idea. Kind of want to have some dialogue. I guess with myself. There's nobody else in here. You guys can comment and, if you want on this. But I think this is super cool, actually. What they're doing in Massachusetts. I'm going to play this video and then we'll chit-chat about it.
First time tonight, we are getting access to the records of thousands of police officers disciplined by the state. 5 Investigates Brittany Johnson has been digging into that database since it went live earlier today. She's live in the newsroom right now with details at 6 for us, Brittany.
That's right, Ed. The list is the result of the criminal justice reform law passed in 2020 that, among other things, was designed to increase police accountability. Now the public can see what their police departments have done to police themselves. The database was prepared by the Massachusetts Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission, which itself was created by that criminal justice reform law. It's a summary of sustained allegations against police officers, so it doesn't include accusations where the officer was cleared. There are more than 2,100 police officers on this list. We found some officers had multiple sustained allegations, as high as 13 for one. The allegations run the gamut of bad behavior, from drinking on duty to sexual harassment, untruthfulness, bias, and criminal conduct. There were 127 complaints involving excessive use of force. The public can also see the discipline, something that's been, until now, not considered a public record, including suspensions, retraining, and 135 terminations.
Is the Post Commission concerned with the misconduct allegations that it was able to find?
Enrique Zuniga is the executive director of the Post Commission.
Well, many of these records are historical records for which officers have been disciplined, in some cases already terminated. But to answer your question more directly, not really. We are satisfied that a lot of what is being reported is done in accordance with strict standards of imparting discipline.
The executive director also pointed out that the number of officers on this list is a small fraction of the total number of police officers in the state. Now, the Post Commission does intend to regularly update the database, including the results from hearings that it holds. Brittany Johnson, 5 Investigate.
All right, so that's out of Massachusetts. I think this is kind of proprietary to Massachusetts right now. But the Massachusetts Peace Officers Standard and Training, which is the Post, they created this. They published this police officer disciplinary database, which they said the numbers on there. I think right now there's 3,413 records in there. For a total of 2,165 officers spread out between 273 agencies in the state. So, and what that does for what I think, my opinion is that brings accountability and transparency to what these officers are doing. And here's the deal. People get in trouble everywhere. You go down here, and, work McDonald's, or, you can work street department, or you can work for a law firm, or, you work at In-N-Out Burger. It doesn't matter. You're going to slip up. You're going to get in trouble. Cops are going to slip up and they're going to get in trouble. Right. But I think with this, it kind of keeps them in check, because they're like, oh man, I don't want to be on that database where the whole world can go see what I'm doing. Right. So, I think it's super cool. And I feel like that, I know some people may look at that, a little bit negative, but in my opinion, again, accountability and transparency, which is what the world wants. And this police state and this police country that we live in, where, people all the way from the Department of Justice and the FBI, and they're just out here doing what they want. And there's no transparency. And I say it all the time, and I will probably say it literally every episode, but when they're doing that on a federal level, when the country's top law enforcement agencies are doing what they want to do and doing dirty bidding for the presidents, when that's going on, how in the world can you expect people on the lower level at these lower police agencies, who a lot of times they don't have any oversight? I learned today, which I don't learn today, I knew about this, but I forgot about it. But like the Dallas County District Attorney's Office has a criminal integrity unit where they go over, cold case files, people who are writing writs, and they're sending stuff in, and just saying, hey, I'm innocent. The fact of the matter is, law enforcement does not get it right. And it doesn't matter what for. It could be because somebody's dirty, somebody's corrupt. It could be a total mistake. It could be because lack of resources. A question I got asked today was, hey, why do you think that these things are going on? Why do you think these innocent people get put in prison? Or why do you think that this murderer gets to walk free? and nobody actually does an investigation. They just get to walk free, or, this sexual abuser just gets to walk free. And my answer was, listen, I said, there's a lot of factors into why. It doesn't automatically mean that the police are corrupt. I know you could have lack of resource. When I worked for Palestine PD, I had over 100 cases, 120 cases, 130 cases that were active to me. They were all felony major crime cases. That's right. We didn't have a major crimes unit, but I worked major crime cases. And I was just inundated and overwhelmed, and I was the only one doing it. It was a lot. And sometimes it's just, you don't have the resources, you don't have the manpower, right, to take care of it. That was my answer. The other thing was complacency. Like, officers think, I've been on the job 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I can look at this and tell you. No, you have to look at everything objectively. You have to look at it without bias and do a solvability factor sheet. Look at these things, see what cases can be solved. I'm kind of getting off track of where I was, but and then there's just downright corruption. Clearly, I know a lot of corrupt cops. And but here's my deal. Overall, in general, if I had to sum it up, I do believe most cops are good, and they're in this job for the right reason. But there are a lot of bad, and the problem is the bad ones shine. They overshadow the good ones because, it's just easy to see the bad things. And so one thing I get so much grief. People think I'm just a cop basher, but, highlight the good things that cops do. And that's one thing I'm going to start implementing on this show too, is I want people to see that cops are good. They're not all bad, right? But I promise you, the bad ones I'm going to talk about, I'm going to expose to the day, to my dying day. And so here's the deal. Going back to this board, this database that was created in Massachusetts, I think it's a phenomenal idea. I think all these states should adopt that. Let me know, guys. Write in comments when you watch this video. Let me know what you think about that. If you think that's something that's good, something that's bad, what could what bad can come from that. But I think it's a step in the right direction for law enforcement. And so I support it. I support that database. All right, guys, listen, this was kind of a short show tonight. I just want to come at you guys weekly, kind of give you some updates of what's going on. I look forward to having some guests here in the next couple of weeks. There's several things that I'm working on. Man, I'm a busy guy. A lot of people contact me. A lot of people want to be on the show. Some of the things I vet out, but some of it's just, not worth my time. But and what I mean by that is I have people that are guilty who message me all the time. Hey, I beat up my wife, but I ain't got time for that, y'all. Stop beating up your wife. Here's the thing. I love the show. I love my numbers. I look at my numbers all the time. I have some loyal listeners, guys. Thank you so much for supporting me, being a part of my journey. I've enjoyed it. I really enjoy getting to talk to you guys and getting to be a part of the actual change within this law enforcement profession and within the judicial system, the justice system, all the way around. So check us out again. YouTube. We'll be on YouTube, Rumble, all the podcast platforms, and I will see you guys next week.
This is Failing Justice.